Hey, what's going on, everybody? NFFC live stream action in effect. We are doing this on Wednesday, August 23rd, late night. This is the Night Owl Online Championship draft. It's a 12-team PPR third round reversal. I am Vlad Sedler at RotoGut on Twitter, and I am joined, as usual, almost at least once a week throughout this draft season by the man himself at _franchise12, Nelson Sousa. Nelson, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? I'm uh,
I'm
I'm excited to actually be on a live stream, and I'm not drafting.
Yeah, this is a first, at least I think for us, and obviously good for me. I don't have to battle against you for picks. I don't have to worry about dealing with you in Fab, and I'm sure I'll see you in some primetime drafts. But this is nice. It's really cool of you to hang out. Maybe even help me when I'm in a jam and analyze all the teams that are drafting today.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna pull up the draft board, and we have. Let's see. I know I got a better view than that. Yeah, you guys don't need to see us. You want to see the draft picks, and we'll talk about it as we go. Did you watch the Steelers game tonight? Steelers crushing in the preseason.
There was a game tonight.
I don't know. I was watching. I'm kidding. I was watching. It was on the NFL Network replay.
I mean, I had drafts tonight, so I didn't even pay attention. I actually don't watch the preseason live. I just go back on NFL Plus and just watch the repeat once it's recorded.
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah, I know Steelers are playing the Falcons tomorrow. It was like some Steelers Bills game where the Steelers were crushing them. So, all right. So we're about to get started here. We got a draft going on in about a minute and a half. So I'm pretty stoked that actually this is my 9th online championship of the draft season. I'll probably end up with 10 to 12. And this is my first time picking in the back third of a draft. So for the most part, I have been getting like my last choice. Like early in draft season, I was getting 4s and 5s, and then I started putting 4 and 5 like towards the end of my KDS, and then I would always get my last draft choice and still end up with a 4 or 5. One of the last time that happened was I think last weekend. I got a 4 pick and I got Jamar Chase, and it was one of those like wild drafts all throughout. So I was pretty happy about that. But today I'll be working out of the 11th spot. I'm excited.
Okay, I've basically all draft season I've kind of lived in the back end, so that should be fun to see how you build that team.
And what? How many prime times have you done so far? There have been 7 to date. Have you been in all of them?
8. I believe there's been 8.
Oh, let me update my ADP. Oh yeah,
One,
because there was one. Yeah, there was one happening tonight. I know.
yeah.
So yeah, we are updated with 8 draft boards in the prime time. All right, 8 draft boards. Justin Jefferson has not gone later than 2 in the 8 prime times. Prime times are the 1750 entries with a 250,000 grand prize. These RotoWire Online Championships also have a $250,000 grand prize, much bigger field. So we're talking about, I think, around 5,000 teams, maybe. Big competition here. And you've actually cut down a little bit. I don't know if you're okay to talk about that, but you're drafting a lot less of them this year.
Yeah. So the last few years, I've averaged over 100 online championships, and this year I stuck to my guns, and I'm going to end up with like about 40.
All right, yeah, still a massive workload, obviously, but the way your work and everything goes, your business, you can kind of work around it and always get your fab done every year. But no matter what, I mean, it's always going to feel like you'll just spend like maybe more time on those teams, and you'll probably still a lot of times just kind of be to the wire.
Yeah, it's just there's going to be less stress of like being under the gun.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be a little more relaxed on a Wednesday, and I mean, what it will probably do is actually it will free up my Tuesdays because I was averaging over 150 teams the last couple of years, and it was Tuesday and Wednesday basically. Uh,
Hmm.
it took Fab took up both those days, so that will help me, cut back on that and have some type of,
Hmm.
sense of having a life.
Yeah.
And but I focused on more of like the bigger buy-in leagues, confined leagues.
Hmm.
So doing the two diamonds, and probably do the same amount of prime times that I have done the last couple of years.
Are you in the platinum this year?
Platinum, yeah, I've done that every year.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And that's in baseball. That's a 15K entry. Is that the same?
20K.
20K. Okay, that's a big boy right there.
That's a big
Um,
one. Gotta get that. Gotta get that shit right.
yeah.
Because that can, I mean, that can make your season right there.
Hmm.
That pays for, first place pays basically for my all my entries.
And is there? I know in so I've done the baseball one, and there's a fourth place prize, or I think they used to do that. Is that the case here as well? Is there something for fourth, like
No,
money
top
back?
three. Top
Top
three.
three. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
All
I'm
right,
on the
you're on the
clock.
clock. What are we
Let's do
talking here?
this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finally get a Bijan Robinson share, and I know you've got him at 20 in the prime time. God bless you, and that's some good luck. But I do
I
not
don't.
have any.
Yeah, I don't think it will ever happen again. I don't even know what was going on.
It
I had
happens.
to double check, make sure that I thought the software was kind of screwy, but
Hmm.
I confirmed on my cheat sheet that I was using that he was still available. And then I had to make sure there was like no injury news. And then I made the pick. But after that, basically, he's been going like late first round in the rest of these prime times.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And I like working from the 11th slot in baseball and football, because I like that little extra element of having someone in between me and assuming who they might be taking, and then making decisions like who I would take in my pick before the turn, so that I can get both of my guys.
Man, what
In
a
this
start for you.
case, yeah, we talked on the podcast, the FTN High Stakes Fantasy Podcast, and I know I'm on the clock, about how I would love to get some exposure to Garrett Wilson, and don't have that opportunity here. I assume Bijan probably would have been taken if I had waited and left him for Team 12. So that's the kind of the rub. I am not going hero running back, or double running back to start. I will just take what the board gives me. I'm going to grab AJ Brown here.
Yeah, I think
In
that's a no-brainer.
I have kind of I tweaked my rankings a little bit. It's nothing like against AJ Brown. I mean, he's my dude, right? I mean, one of my highest exposures from last season in the third round for the most part. And I mean, it's not like he was a surprise or a secret, but I was kind of really big on that Philly offense, like fully breaking out, going against some of the assumptions of, oh, they're going to continue to be super run heavy. And, they led the league in rushing touchdowns, but the pass offense was fine. Obviously, Antonio Brown was a wide receiver one, Devonta Smith a second half hero and a fantasy playoff darling. But I would have liked Garrett Wilson, and I just no matter how much I like Pollard, or I don't have any Chubb, Nick Chubb, I would have liked those. But I just, the way I'm building, and looking at future picks, I couldn't do two running backs there.
So I can't imagine that you have much AJ Brown because you haven't really been on the back end. So I don't think you've like
I
taken Brown early in the first round, have you?
No, but I had an 8 or a 9 where I took him.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So it's funny how that works, like always kind of tweaking the rankings. And now I have him like, I think 13th.
Yeah.
But yeah, that works out. So they're just, this is actually a good question. Like in these offenses where sometimes the concern is, oh, like so many mouths to feed. Can everyone really hit their ceiling and return value if they're high draft capital picks like a Brown and a Devontae Smith? You almost feel like, somebody's not going to quite get there. And then you obviously got Goddard, you've got these running backs. You now have this rumor about Jonathan Taylor, which would be insane. So just before we get to even the Taylor stuff, he's not even off the board. I probably shouldn't be talking about him, but talk a little bit about that. Like
Yeah. So
too many mouths to feed thing.
yeah, someone asked me. It might have been in the Discord chat, or a DM, but they had asked me, oh, hypothetical, if Taylor went to the Eagles, what would happen with his ADP? And I think he would go at the 1-2 turn. I think you would see him go ahead of Pollard, go ahead of Chubb. Um, and, I think the hype might get out of control where he would maybe enter the first round and we would have, Robinson and those receivers get pushed to the second round. That would be my prediction. That's not how I would value him, though. You just can't have AJ Brown, Taylor, and Devontae Smith all going in the second round. It like something's got to give. So someone's is not gonna get there based off of their draft position. So that would be my best guess.
So looky there, Josh Jacobs going in the second round. In the 8 prime times, his minimum pick is 36. So end of the third round, max of 47 near the end of the fourth. I've been kind of out of pocket all day, so I haven't seen any. I saw something about Josh Jacobs yesterday. He was going to report, and then I heard that was not true. He said it wasn't true. What's the deal there?
Yeah, he hasn't made any decision as far as reporting. I don't know. I think what ends up happening too is it either comes from the team, the front office, or it comes from agents or a player's agent, where they put out misinformation, and they put it out to a top reporter or whatever, and they go and put it out there, and it's just it's misinformation that doesn't work.
Oh shit, I'm up.
You're on the clock.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna grab some of this guy. I'm gonna feel very good about my start here. I love Calvin Ridley. I've got a couple shares. I think the JSN injury, it helps a little bit here for Metcalf to really go off. I'm looking for another double-digit touchdown season, 1,200 plus yards. What's that?
How much Ridley do you have?
I have a couple. I think I have like 2 or 3 out of 8.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, I have. No, I only have 1. Huh? I thought I had more. Maybe it's my best balls.
I would have taken Ridley there. Because DK, like this start right here, you can get this all day and have DK. But like with Ridley, I'm going off of the prime times. I stopped drafting the OCs here recently.
Would have been more unique.
It would have been more unique. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense.
I like DK just fine. I just trying to build kind of like a more unique, different looking team. So like in the prime times, Ridley doesn't get out of the second round, basically.
Yeah, that I've noticed. All right, so here we go. T. Higgins. That's kind of usually see him like in the mid-20s, and I'm going to look at prime time. Yeah, so in prime times, in 8 prime times, min of 20, max of 27. So that's a little past there. And here we go. Finishing up the third round, there is Jonathan Taylor. Let's talk about that for a second. How do you feel if you're somebody that has Swift shares and heavy on Rashad Penny, and you hear this rumor that the Eagles want to go after Jonathan Taylor? How does that kind of does it waver the confidence of?
I would still have hope that one of those guys, if the trade did happen, that one of those guys would be coming back in the trade. So they potentially don't lose value if maybe gain some value. So that's what I would be hoping for. Um, I don't know. I don't see it getting done personally, because if we're talking that it's going to take a first round pick, or you know, or a second round pick, like that's the whole point why these running backs haven't been getting paid and why everyone's upset, is because the GMs that, these NFL teams are devaluing the position.
Hmm.
So why would a team give up a first round pick and then pay him top five money? Like that's the whole point of, like, they're trying to get away from that. So I don't know, man. I don't see it.
All right, we keep moving along here. There's Stevens, Ramondre, Jerry Judy, Amari Cooper just continues to go in that range. We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast. My feelings on recently, maybe it's just a fad on how I feel about the Cleveland pass game.
Hmm.
And Amari Cooper has just been steadily sitting there towards the end of the third round without issue. We got Joe Burrow off the board, Jerry Judy, and nothing weird or interesting. What do you think about this start here for Team 8 going Barkley, Pollard, Higgins? Pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, Higgins fell to him, and Barkley and Pollard. That's two really good backs to start with. So that'll be interesting to track to see
Mhm.
how he does the rest of the draft.
All right, here is the guy that was picking first. You wouldn't mind we mentioned Jack Kitchen. He's in a lot of these things. So very good drafter, football and baseball. He actually had one as his first choice, drew the first choice, and then went ahead and got Justin Jefferson. So he's got three backs with Derrick Henry. Are you still kind of a little sour on Henry?
No, no, not
No?
not sour. Just I mean, if I'm there in the one hole, I'm taking Hurts. I'm taking Calvin Ridley before Henry. So it's one of those things where I need Henry to fall maybe like middle of the third round, and then
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, okay, boom, like he's the pick. But there's other receivers in the big three quarterbacks that I rather take over Henry.
All right, here we go. Turning down the middle here. I need to make my screen a little bigger so I can see what's going on. Christian Watson, about where he's going. He's already had like two injury scares. I hate kind of hate when that happens. Little foreshadow. Hopefully, not any foreshadowing, but I think he's had like two injury scares. One of them last week was nothing. Something again happened today. Obviously, we all hope for full health
Yeah.
for him to Randy Moss it up.
I don't know. One way you can look at it is like, okay, he's already had two injury scares. He's met his quota. So
That's true.
you should be healthy for the season.
There's Joe Mixon off the board going around where he goes. Probably somebody I'm not going to have any of. I think I have him maybe even like a round and a half, 2 rounds down in my best ball rankings. We just pick our stands in certain places, and if he beats me, so be it. Enough rounds here where it's okay to make mistakes. And Najee Harris is another guy, could be just fine. Kind of like the Steelers offense more and more as the days go by. But I'm just not going to be investing in him, although seems like it's a good price for kind of like steady production.
Yeah, Mixon. I've only got one team with Mixon, and it was because he fell to 512. So that just goes to show you that he's kind of like an afterthought.
Mhm.
I'm just not really all that interested in him.
All right, here I go coming up.
Yep.
Uh, Lamar would have been nice. I would have, but people like to do their little vanity pairings. I don't mean that in a facetious negative manner, but yeah, obviously, if you get Mark Andrews, you could pair it with Lamar Jackson. We've seen that work really well over the years, particularly a couple of seasons ago. So that's really nice. And he's got one of each player there, Team 9. Receiver, running back, tight end, and quarterback. Team 10's on the clock. He's got a nice start as well. And then I need to start thinking about my pick. So anything you want to talk about?
Sure. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out if anything sticks out.
All right. So Mike Williams. All right, here we go. 2 running backs, a receiver. Let's see if I didn't really map out a draft plan. Didn't really have time for this one from the back end, but I'm pretty familiar with the board. I don't. I think. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to get me some of this because the wide receivers, I'll wait actually here for my third one. I just need to get in on the hype. So like, it. If he stays healthy, man, if he really is that number one target there with all those sort of secondary receivers, Darren Waller, man, price is going up. He's the third receiver over the board on the board. I'm sorry, tight end. Because you got TJ Hawkinson he's been banged up. So he's been falling. Kittle's banged up. He's falling. I feel like consumer confidence in him is just absolutely shot. So you could probably see him going like round 9 at some point in some of these drafts. All right. Question for you. So, and if you can, I guess, assist me here. I think you kind of know where I'm probably going is with a quarterback. Because I don't know, I don't really want to mess around with the guys later and have to worry about figuring out each week. So, I have already a few fields. I like Trevor Lawrence. Obviously I don't have any yet. But is there anyone like stand out otherwise that I should take over those guys and just punt the quarterback?
No, I feel like the caliber of receiver that's there, you potentially could, if they don't clean them up, you potentially could get them in the 6th round.
Would you mix it up with my first Lawrence share or just take another Fields?
I mean, you know the answer to that. For me, I'm taking Lawrence.
Yeah. All right. Nice to have a Lawrence share. So there we go. I'm really not going to get anyone to pair with him, I guess, because obviously, well, hey, this would have been nice. This is nice. This is why you listen to Nelson. I would have had Ridley to go with my Lawrence, and now I don't. And then obviously the other receiver there is not going to last. I won't name him, but you know who he is, initial CK. And then obviously I'm not going to just take Zay Jones just to have a vanity pairing. So that's it. Don't listen to Nelson and blew your shot.
Yeah. So, to answer this question here, his Mike Evans' price is, baked in based on the quarterback downgrade. So I don't think there's any downside. I think people are looking at it as he's getting older, and he kind of had a shitty season last year, and that week 17 game is kind of, pumped up his numbers, but overall it was kind of a disappointing season for him. So people are looking at it as like, hey, this could be, the cliff for him, and especially now with the quarterback downgrade. So I wouldn't say he's good value. I would say that it's just, it's probably a fair price to pay on him. But, the dude's been automatic, 1,000 yards every year. But
every year since he started.
Yeah. I don't know if you can bank on that this year. I think you did start to see a little bit of, a downturn for him.
And I did mention this on a stream a couple times back and in a tweet. And, obviously it's like, I guess at this point, one of the only stats I remember about Evans, but I did just kind of look up and see, I noticed he had just basically like 2 big games last season. And those 2 games accounted for basically a third of his fantasy points last season. So, which is not very Mike Evans like. We usually see him be more consistent. Another question here.
I thought we were going to see McLaren go later.
Yeah.
So I had 2 prime times tonight, and he really didn't get discounted. He went in this range. I don't know. I mean, turf toe, potential to miss week 1. Like, man, I hate those like late injuries that
Mm.
are like potentially like nagging injuries. So like hamstring, high ankle sprain, turf toe, like those. I don't want to hear that for my wide receivers. So
There, there was some ridiculous comment. I think I have to find it, but um, about him, where it's like, how is MRI? They were like, well, it's not that. It was something like ridiculous. Like it's not fully bad or something. It just wasn't very confident.
yeah. So
I'll find it.
what happened was the reporter asked, Ron Rivera about the X-rays, and he basically, I don't remember word for word, but he basically said, you know, not it was like not a horrible X-ray, and it's like,
Yeah.
what the f does that mean? It's like, so there was something there, is what you're trying to say. So yeah, I I just don't want to be drafting, I don't want to be drafting headaches, right
Mhm.
off the bat and have to deal with that. Now, if he came at an extreme discount and, his price was like 7th round, something like that, then I would be more interested in him. But
The the
there's
the
his teammate Dotson. I would take,
Mhm.
like, I moved Dotson ahead of him.
Yeah.
I adjusted my rankings. So I take Dotson. I would take Christian Kirk. I think there's a lot, that's being made of like a small sample size where Zay Jones started the game with Ridley and Kirk, just didn't play as many snaps. So like now the sky's falling. I'm not, believing in that. I think Kirk's going to be just fine. So I would take him. You got Deontay Johnson, Lockett. Yeah, I mean, I just want to take healthy guys and not take my receiver that now is dealing with, turf toe to start the season.
I had my bold predictions article come out, the one I do every year. Last season's one, I had a pretty good hit rate. And this season, one of them was that Dotson. I mean, this is not the bold part. It's kind of like the less bold, but one of them was like Dotson was going to outproduce McLaurin this season.
Mm-hmm.
And this is before this little injury. But that quote is from the tweets from JP Finley of NBC. And Ron Rivera basically on the status of McLaurin said, for the most part, Terry's X-rays are negative, and his
For the
MRA
most part.
his MRI showed the same thing
That's
for the
great.
most part. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
That's like Pete Carroll describing JSN's. His wrist is the bone, like a bone in his wrist is slightly broken. Like,
Yeah.
what do you,
Yeah.
what do you mean slightly broken?
Mhm.
Come on.
Mhm. By the way, a code for you guys if you do want to get into this RotoWire OC, we have a new one for you. The old one has expired because Sunday had passed. A lot of people used it, which is great, but the new one here, it's for $35 off of a NFFC RotoWire Online Championship. The entry is typically $350. You'll get 35 off of it with the code Chase35. So you can use that anytime now through the end of the season. All right. Oh, this question, and then I'm going to be up soon. We touched on it a little bit, but his primetime min is 41, and he's one of the biggest risers, helium guys in this draft season.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's where he's going right now in drafts. And now to answer that question, is that too early? I don't think so, because I'm one of the guys that's
Mm-hmm.
drafting Waller. So it's like any player in the NFL. They got to stay healthy. So but he's set up where he could have a massive year if he does stay healthy. If he gets banged up or whatever, then he's going to be a disappointment, and people that faded him are going to look like they're geniuses that,
Mhm.
hey, this is Waller's MO, getting up there in age, banged up, that type of thing. But I think when you have a guy like that has the potential to finish as the tight end one, I'm always interested in that. I'm interested in those kind of upside plays.
Thank you to our late night producer George, who he's on the East Coast. He could be sleeping, but instead has chosen to help us out here tonight. So thank you, George. Also, one of the best. Um, what would you call it? Like, man, I don't know. It's late night. I'm blanking. Not just graphics. It's like more like what do you call it in the business? He's one of the best artists,
He's
fantasy
like
artists.
he's one of the best artists. Yeah,
Yeah,
or graphics
graphic
design.
art, graphic design.
Yeah,
That's what I'm looking for.
yeah.
Jahan Dotson, by the way, okay, I'm about to be on the clock. His
You're on
min
the
pick
clock.
in prime times is 49, by the way. So somebody really loves him. All right.
So it's late for me, so I don't even know what's 49. You got to do the math for me.
Oh, 49 is the first round in the fifth. First pick in the fifth. And I'm
First,
up. I'm going to. Is there any run? By the way, I have a wide receiver I'm going to take. But is there any running back that pops out to you that you would?
yeah, there is.
Okay. Oh, I know.
I,
It's
I
I know who you like. Yeah. I'm
yeah,
going to
like
go.
I like him so much that I wouldn't even chance Team 12 potentially going 3 running backs.
All right, I'll ask you for who that is after you go, but I'm just kind of going by the fact that he has, and hopefully he's not watching live stream, Team 12, but I'm hoping he's not going to go one. We may not even have the same one, but I'm going to take a receiver here just so I can get my third.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go Gabe Davis.
I like that too.
The way that I look at it is there are enough running backs in this range, and I don't have like I do have a standout from this group. I don't think it's the same as your guy, but he's
Probably not.
somebody I have a lot of exposure to already, and I don't have to force it here. And the next like kind of 8 guys, I'm
No,
okay
pass him.
with.
Pass him. See, he went 3 running backs. He took the wrong one, but he went 3 running backs.
I hope he's listening so that he takes yet another one to try to guess who is Nelson's running back.
Yeah, and we're not taking your guy. Do not make me stay up this late for you to
Okay,
go and take him. We're
okay.
not we're not taking Javante.
I thought your guy here was white, and he's gone.
No,
Who is it? Is it Madison?
Madison. Yeah,
I, man, I maybe I just snap a share just because
this
I
is late
trust
for him.
you.
Go look at his primetime
I
ADP.
know, I guess, and then I have enough Kamara. Yeah, sure. I'll be Nelson influenced here. Let's grab a Madison share. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I thank you. I will give you a percentage of the 250,000 that I win at the end of the year.
This is a discount for him. It's not even like I'm asking you to push him up.
Fair. And so, so that's a good question. It's like it's discount based on what the market feels like he's going to go, and not even including you, but just in general. But then if I don't,
Twofold. It's
yeah, but
both.
then
So he's a discount in my eyes, and he's a discount for where his current ADP is right now.
got it. Is Ty Chandler going to lock up that pass down back role there, or is Dwayne McBride still in the mix?
I
Or you don't
I
really care
think
because you think
they're not happy with any of those guys. So could you see like a veteran guy get signed? Possibly. But I know that
Fournette.
those he's not a good combo with Madison. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the answer would be, but I do know that those guys are not happy with the guys behind Madison. So like my feeling is like Madison's going to be a 3 down back and to start the year, and it's going to be all about whether he performs or doesn't early on. But I think he's going to get the shot of being a workhorse running back.
Yes, Kareem Hunt did visit Minnesota. He's been all over the East Coast and Central. No one has signed him yet. So the interesting thing about Leonard Fournette is there is like no update on him about, is he, Maddie talked about it, I think, on our running back pod a week and a half ago. Like, you don't even know if he's in shape, if he's exercising. If you go to like search his name on Twitter and you go to latest and you scroll through, there's like nothing, nothing out there at all. Maybe he retires. I mean, someone's got to sign him at some point, right?
I would love to know, like, if he's in shape or if he's like as big as me right now, eating late night Ben and Jerry's.
Is that that's the good stuff? I like the Talenti. That's my choice. The raspberry chocolate chip.
Okay.
But Ben and Jerry's, very East Coast of you.
Yes, yes.
Got to represent Vermont, right? I think
it's in Vermont.
Yeah. Dameon Pierce, another guy I don't have a lot. I don't have any Dameon Pierce really, and it's, I mean, he looked great last year. Nothing particularly wrong with him. I think he had a little bit of a stretch last year where just wasn't getting in the end zone and had some bust games. But overall, a pretty good rookie season. Houston is still like a bottom third team, maybe emerging a little bit. I think maybe, what do people have him for? Like 4 to 6 wins, and maybe a lot of games where they'll be playing from behind and would be, sort of in pass down situations. And one originally would think that Devin Singletary would be in that position and sort of get more work. But the way things, I guess, have been set up in the preseason, that we might see Dameon Pierce catch some passes. Is that what you've been seeing?
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of people are projecting and why he's moved up in drafts. So this is actually, late for him based on where he's been going in drafts. But
yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's like a hard-nosed runner and everything, and but I think that Singletary is gonna get used, maybe more than what we think. But it's quite possible that they just make him the 3 down back, and then this is kind of a steal for where he's going.
Singletary, I understand he's like boring for people, but like, I mean, 2 years ago down the fantasy playoff stretch when he was the basically like the 1A and involved as a pass catcher last year, didn't catch as many balls. Like, for someone who I feel like he's better than the market is dictating. And I know it's like, it's boring. He's on Houston now, feels like an afterthought, but where people are drafting, around 15, whatever, past there, with a lot of like, he's just one of those guys you always see fall. And that's like a mess of backup running backs that may not even ever get a touch. And then you have Singletary, who might be able to use in bye weeks on occasion and will have some ceiling games. He will have some 15, plus point games, and we'll score some touchdowns. We'll catch some balls. So I feel like he's just gets no love whatsoever.
Yep.
So now that Zay Flowers has been taken, this question popped up. I can pop up this question from Ryan. Would you take Flowers over JSN? Is it too early for the round 6? For me, the first part of that question, I'm just not even drafting JSN. So yes, for me, Zay.
Yeah, I'd rather draft Zay over JSN, but not in the 6th round. I think that might be a little too early for him.
I think so too. And definitely not JSN at this point in round 6. I mean, his market price has moved down. I mean, why is JSN the exception to our general, which should be our rule, is like guys that are injured to start the season? You just don't need to go there. You're going to have enough things that happen during the season to your team. Players will get hurt. Players will not be productive. They'll bust. You don't want to put yourself in too much of a hole. It's similar to baseball, like drafting pitchers coming off like elbow injury or something, or like starting the season off on the AL. You don't want to end up with like too many stashes. And in NFFC football, it's a little different. You do have 10 bench spots. There is no IR, but you can stash a guy for a while, but still you're kind of hampering and limiting your flexibility, especially in bye weeks. You can catch yourself in a position where you're bidding on like, I don't know, Nelson Aguilar to fill in as your wide receiver 3 in week 8.
Yeah. Again, we touched base on it with Terry McLaurin, and I just don't want to. I just don't want to have that headache. If I can not necessarily avoid it, but if there's comparable players going where that player is going, then there's no need to like take on that injury risk and deal with that headache. I think it's when a player maybe gets slightly discounted, but you look at what his upside is to where he's going in the draft. That's when it like interests me. So like I'll give you an example. Last year, DeAndre Hopkins suspended for the first 6 weeks of the season. Um, he was going like 7th round, um, 6th round sometimes. And when I did the math, like to me, once those 6 games were over and he was, coming back, I felt like he had that upside that he could be a wide receiver 1. And that's essentially what he was when he did come back. So I felt like that was worth the risk. That was worth the headache of, okay, I'm taking this guy in the 7th round. He's technically going onto my roster as like a starting wide receiver that I'm going to have to automatically, right, to start the year, first 6 games, I'm going to have to put him on the bench. So it was kind of like, okay, what is the backup plan? Who is the guy that's going to replace him? And I just felt like I felt confident last year that I could replace his production a little bit. And then when it got to the 6 weeks, that I could potentially have teams going into the playoffs with a low-owned DeAndre Hopkins. So, like, that was worth the risk. Like, McLaurin is a nice player, but like he doesn't have wide receiver 1 upside, in my opinion. There's going to be people that might disagree, but so that's how I look at it. And then like JSN, he needs injuries because like DK and Lockett are, those are the guys. Like they're not going away. They're not taking a backseat to JSN. JSN is not a generational talent that is going to command more targets than DK and Lockett. So
real quick, Nelson, I'm sorry to interrupt because
go.
I'm on the clock. I have 4 receivers. I have 2 running backs. Running backs are getting really thin. I want to kind of get into your head where you would what you would be into here.
So looking at the board, sorry,
yeah,
I already know the players.
Yeah, so my options here are it's Quentin Johnston or Zach Charbonnet. Who would you take? Okay. And I will now have him and Metcalf from Seattle. Yeah, it just gets thin, right? Because if my RB3 ends up being like, Damian Harris or Algier or it's just going to be dicey.
No, I like the upside with Charbonnet, and I actually think that he's going to have a little bit of a role to start the year. So I don't even know necessarily that he needs a Walker injury.
Yeah, he's gonna catch a lot of balls. I know you like him. He's a UCLA guy, so I like him local here for me.
I like what I saw out of him. I thought he looked really good in the preseason.
So Quentin Johnston, the one thing I will say, and listen, I could be wrong, but he was the guy that I wasn't really sure about in the preseason, and I don't watch all that much college. But this time last year, I went and I looked at highlights, like film of all the rookie prospects. And last year, and I'm not a film guy, okay, I'm not technical guy. I think good at fantasy, reading the market, fab, that kind of stuff. But there was something about Christian Watson that really stood out to me, and obviously he's good, right? Competition was a little different for him, but like I was like, oh, Watson is my guy. And so from watching all the film, that's where I got the I think Johnson's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but I like him. We'll see. someone's got people have to eat. Herbert wants to feed. So, Keenan gets banged up or Mike Williams gets banged up. Plenty of opportunities there. By the way, what's the running back backup plan there? There was Joshua Kelly was getting some stiff competition from Isaiah Spiller.
Isaiah Spiller is definitely in the mix, but I even like the Elijah Dotson kid. He's flashed to me in the preseason, so he's like a real dark horse name that could potentially emerge later in the season. But yeah, I think it's between Kelly and Spiller, and I wouldn't necessarily say that like Spiller doesn't get drafted, right? And Kelly does in most drafts. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Like after week 1, people are dropping Kelly and picking up Spiller.
Yeah, and I think I did that with Eckler's backups, maybe like 6 times last season. You're just like constantly. I think there was even like Larry Roundtree season there for a couple of weeks. It was crazy because hey, something happens. There's a backup there that's going to eat. Sage Spiller, by the way, one of the and no relation to Isaiah, by the way, but Isaiah does wear. In college, he wore 28 in A&M when he started there in tribute. But CJ Spiller is like one of my darlings of all time. Like some of my biggest wins and biggest money things is getting like a 17th round Spiller for his breakout year.
Okay. I had Spiller for his non-breakout years.
So you don't have the same feel for him.
I don't have the same affection for Spiller now.
Well, that sucks. I'm not even going to get a Geno Smith to pair because he just went like 3-4 rounds ahead of where he usually goes.
Well,
pick 106.
You got to back up Burrow.
What's that?
You have to back up Burrow when you take Burrow in the 3rd round. You got to make sure that you get that backup QB, for your 10th round pick.
Now this is a week 1 question already. Gotta love it. You're going to make us look at the schedule here. I mean, we know week 1.
Who to start?
The problem is,
hit me up in the Discord chat. On September 7th, and I'll answer that question. I'm not even there looking at matchups. I still have. I don't know. I have like 50 plus drafts
to go
that I still have to draft from, now until, the start of the season.
I would say play Laporta. It's not just because you're spending a higher, draft capital pick from him, but the difference in projected points in what is going to be the first game of the season on a Thursday night between Kansas City and Detroit. It's going to be like 55. I don't know what the spread is, the total, but it's going to be super high. It's going to be a super exciting game. These teams are going to be pumped up. And the other game is Dallas and the Giants. And then, of course, watch Jake Ferguson catches 2 touchdowns, and then I'll be reminded of this bad decision. But that's what I would do. I would play Laporta, who looks like the clear tight end one.
There. Yeah, and I was trying to be funny, but yeah, the easy decision there is just play Laporta.
All right, so here I go with round 10. I have a quarterback. I'm not looking for one backup anytime soon. I'm going to pretty much play Lawrence every week. Tight end, I'm pretty content with Waller to the point where there are enough guys in the last few rounds of the draft that I can wait for him. And I have 4 receivers, so I think one of my next 2 picks is going to be a receiver. My other one might be 2 receivers, might be a receiver running back. I'm going to wait for these 2 picks before I give any more leans. By the way, any teams that pop out to you that you want to talk about right now?
Let's see. Teams that I like?
Yeah, just like we'll just look at it, these. Okay, well, first, let me make my pick. I am going to do I'm going to correct mistakes from previous drafts. You remember, like a week ago, we were drafting. I had CMC. I was talking and busy and completely didn't think to back up or handcuff with Elijah Mitchell. I know it's not always necessary, but if something does happen to him, it's just worth it to take that. So that's what I'm going to do here with Bijan, just in case. And this is right around where he goes. So Tyler Algier, I think, is a slam dunk for me there.
Yeah, I like that pick.
I'm kind of covered because, I mean, you probably won't get the same type of production, but you have a guy that's going to be an RB1 in quite a few weeks if something happened to Bijan Robinson. What's this guy going to do here on the turn?
He's going to take a tight end and probably another running back.
All right. Never know who's watching. They're listening or they don't care. I did post to the draft room that this was going to be live streamed. I didn't get any commentary, so I don't know. A few people are watching, but also it's like, it's what, 1:40 in the morning, right? Or 12:40?
12:40, yeah.
On the East Coast. Yeah. I mean, it's 9:40 for me. That's late enough. All right. What do you like for me here? I know I need to go with a receiver. No one like truly pops out. There's a rookie that I like a lot, but it's going to be pretty crowded over there, and I guess we can talk about it now. But I do like Rashee Rice. Who knows if that's going to end up being too high of a pick for him. Nico Collins, I haven't been in on. I mean, I liked him last year. Didn't work out, the offenses and all that. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Is there anyone I'm missing, or am I pretty much looking at those two?
Yeah, you got Spears, Bigsby, Algier. I feel like
I could stash Jameson too. I have no Jameson Williams. 6 weeks can go by real quick.
Yeah. Probably Nico Collins has looked good to me, so I probably lean Nico.
Okay. And I have a bunch of Rashee Rice, so yeah, Nico's a little bit more, I think, consistent week to week. Those we've talked about it. We talked about it on the podcast, the QB podcast with Mahomes.
Whether he produces or not is a different story, but he's locked into a starting role, so he's going to be playing. He's out there full snaps. Rice has, looked good with Mahomes in camp, but that he could be just a rotational piece. Look at what happened with Sky Moore last year. So, part-time guy, rookie year. But the upside is also there that he could take off. Like if he if things start clicking, he definitely has upside. But I think Nico is a good pick there.
I mean, any draft that I'm doing, best balls or these, like when these guys kind of come across the table, and especially the later round guys, MVS, Justin Ross, Richie James, I'm just kind of rotating them in, kind of like Mahomes is going to do with them fantasy points week to week. I'm just like, okay, I'll pick one of these guys up. It's like the KC receiver lottery. You really don't know what's going to happen there outside of Kelsey. I've even had some Sky Moore doubt lately. It's weird. I've been like really gung-ho on him for the last month and a half, and then I guess it just happens in draft season. I mean, not to everybody, but to me, sometimes somebody I'm really high on, I come back down, a little bit back down to earth on, for no real rhyme or reason, because he's gonna be right. He's gonna be there, for the most part, their slot man. But Richie James can work a bunch out of the slot too, and he's pretty solid. So I mean, who knows?
So you had told me earlier to look at some teams and see if I liked any. And we had touched base on Team 8 that what he was going to do after that, Barkley, Pollard, Higgins start. And I actually think it's a pretty decent team. Like he's put it together where he focused on getting a quarterback, Fields, and then he got Pitts, which I think there's going to be games where he does well, and then he's going to disappear other games.
Mhm.
So I definitely don't feel super confident starting him, but he's got a lot of potential. But overall, I thought he put the team together pretty well.
Oh, that's
Uh,
our guy, Matthew Dugan. He's an FTN subscriber, and so yeah, I think he has a high stakes package. I think so has insight into your rankings and your fade
okay.
list and everything. By the way, people that don't have it, I think most people. I mean, I'm not going to assume. I don't know who's listening, whatnot, but um, y- y- you've got 2 weeks to go here. It's not just about the draft season to get the high stakes package for FTN Fantasy, but it's for Nelson's content throughout the course of the season, the incredible fab work that he does every week, and then also just like to be able to hit him up at Discord in any time. And he's very candid, very open. And so it's a really good, um, basically the best service you can get, and ftnfantasy.com. And you can get 20% off with the code FT. With the code is high stakes 20. So high stakes 20 is the code for ftnfantasy.com, the high stakes package. And then if you want to draft any RotoWire OCs and you want $35 off, that code is Chase 35, as in Jamar Chase.
I guess Team Four. I don't necessarily agree with the players that he took and who he passed over, but the structure is pretty sound. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I look for that a lot. Is our teams like structuring, like putting their team together,
Mm-hmm.
and does it look right? To me. Um, as far as the opinion of like what player to take, who I like, who I don't like, that's just, one person's opinion over another. So that's always debatable, but to me, it's getting in here and not just like just drafting off of
Mm-hmm.
top 150 rankings. I
Yep.
think you really have to have an idea of like how you're going to put your team and construct your team.
Pick team two, by the way. They are, I think, a football NFFC overall champion. So they've won the Monster Prize before, I believe, in football. It might be in baseball. But anyways, they're good drafters. But you're looking at that's a really, really young team. Really young team, really high upside, I guess, but also a lot of downside. And that's an interesting last four there. Like people warn you about rookie tight ends, and every year we're like, oh, maybe this is the year that they'll be fine. But you
There's a lot of
basically,
rookies on that team.
yeah, you sandwiched, two quarterbacks between two rookie tight ends. So it's an interesting, unique build.
I like the players. Again, the structure of the team is good. I think that's the way to go when you punt, you know, quarterback is to
Mm-hmm.
kind of double tap it. And same thing with tight end. So he focused more on getting receivers and getting depth at running back,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and prioritize that over, and I'm not really looking at each turn and see who is there, but it could have been a situation where he just didn't like, the quarterback or tight end that was there every time.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got good depth, at those positions. And then he's got to hope that, to I think Richardson's going to struggle. So I think he's gonna have to hope. And you're on the clock,
Yep.
but he's gonna have to hope that Tua, paired with Waddle, is going to be his dynamic connection. And then the two rookie tight ends, I think they're built different
Mm-hmm.
than you know recent tight ends that we've seen. So I actually think they're going to be productive.
Question for you. I'm a big, I, yeah, I think I'm a bigger Raheem Mostert guy than you, but do you like that pick here for me? Would be my fifth running back, and I feel like I could relax a little bit. Or is there like a standout receiver that you would grab first? And
No,
I got like 8 seconds.
No, I like Mostert.
All right. You know, if he was healthy, I would be into Damian Harris. But he's still not. He's dealing with the knee issue. But man, he could he could score a lot of touchdowns in that offense. I feel like he's not getting credit. Like he was when he's healthy and good, he's really dynamic and good around the goal line. Doesn't catch a lot of passes, hurts in PPR, but a healthy Harris, I think, would be pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Coming back around the turn, I got another pick here. Oh, so he took my leftovers. And listen, Jeff Wilson is pretty damn good. Could be better than Mostert this season. We have no idea, but that's around where these guys go. Chig there. Okay. So I have one guy that is not part of like a normal build here. Okay, I have two questions here, and this might kind of throw off the draft a little bit because of talking about picks that might not be going. I'm thinking about, and I know you don't usually do this, but I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers because I just thinking about getting another good quarterback with Lawrence, or just doing a defense and just taking the Niners in this case over the Eagles, or do I just wait for a later defense?
I mean, I would take the Eagles over the Niners. I wouldn't take Rodgers here.
Receiver Mooney, Mims, Gallup. I have five. I got 10 seconds here. Mooney or the defense?
I would lean
Or
the
Mims.
defense.
Okay.
But I mean, it's I
Oops.
it's depends how you prioritize it. For me, I think we've talked about this before on a live stream, and I try to find one of those like potential top defenses, and then that way I can just play them every week and not stream because I tracked a few years ago I tracked what I was doing as far as streaming defenses and how much I was spending, and it just wasn't worth it. Like I was, it was like two something plus. It was like almost $300, and so a third, essentially like a third of my fab was spent on defenses, and that's why I went away from that now.
So you just saw a live timeout by yours truly, and that's legal. The next I hit contact admin right away, and the next person hadn't made their pick yet, and I told them in the chat I meant to take or not that I meant to take Phillies D. I tried to click, and then a second ago, or a second before it hit, Rogers went on my board. So
Yeah.
That's what I did. And team 2 is here. He's in the chat. And I'm sorry if Kyle, if you didn't want to know, if you don't want people to know that you're team 2 and what players you like, I just kind of clicked. So
I
my
know
apologies.
now.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's not trying to hide.
No.
You're absolutely right. Such a headache.
Yeah.
Like you just said.
Yeah. It's just, so over the years, that's kind of been my strategy is, without getting too carried away. But I know a lot of people, they kind of live the old school way of like, hey, a defense and a kicker, that's with use your last two picks of the draft for that. But I've had seasons where I get the right defense and they have some big weeks. I've done it actually twice with New England with the Patriots defense. So
2019, the massive season.
yeah, I've done it then. And then even last year, like for fantasy, if you look at, do you have that up for top scoring defenses last year? I had New England quite a bit, and I want to say that they're
all, dude, and you can always just and even their team kicker, like in the close games, like, it was Nick Folk last year, just like, putting up 20 burgers like it's nothing.
Yeah,
That's funny.
let me look that up. Just let's it's 1:00 in the morning. Let's talk about defenses.
Let's do it. We're gonna go through round 15 here, so we're gonna go 3 more rounds and then call it a draft. But other thing I wanted to mention. Hold on a sec. Oh, about while you're looking up defenses, about number of receivers that you're carrying on your team in a 20 team draft. I feel like in best ball, people that's like the position that you have the most of, and it makes sense. It's because you have three plus the flex that you're starting, and it's the same format that we have here. Um, but I catch myself not having 8 or 9 receivers like I used to in the past. And I think something, the way that you do things has kind of soaked into my head. And so what I notice is if you have like a strong set of receivers through your first 10 rounds, you have like 4 or 5 guys, then you're only taking 2 more really, right? At that point,
Mhm.
you're not gambling on these, droppable guys later, right?
No, I rather take running back handcuffs at that point. See
Mm-hmm.
if you can hit lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
All right. So Vlad, last year you have Dallas, San Francisco, and New England.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't look at any stats, tell me top three in scoring from first to third. Those top three. New
For
England, so Patriots, 49ers, and Cowboys.
Patriots, 49ers, and Cowboys in total fantasy points
Mm-hmm.
or points per game.
Where total fantasy points, where do they rank last year?
Uh, Patriots were first.
Okay. So like
Mm,
that's and then who cares about 49ers were next and then the Cowboys. But
mhm.
if I went and asked that to the average fantasy person and we you know I think most people the consensus would not be New England.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, so on Philly, I have a question here. I hadn't really
What
dug
happened
into
to the
them.
lobby?
Like, what's that?
What happened to the lobby? It, the draft board went away.
Oh, let's try to get that back. Let's get us back on here, and then we'll try to get the board back
Sure.
in a second. So about Philly, I just you see everyone taking them, first overall in like 13th, 14th round, and then I saw something, and I hadn't really looked into them. I didn't realize that they had lost some like key defensive players, and then I see, I somebody posted about how like ESPN's rankings, like their people have them like fifth to ninth ranked overall, like consensus. And I was shocked by that. Is I'm missing something here? Is it really that much of a difference? Like, why would NFFC players be behind the market on the general public on something?
I don't know. I look at it as their offense is going to be very good and they're going to score a lot of points, and in turn that means that their defenses are going to be playing where they can kind of pin their ears back in the second half, and their opponents are going to have to be throwing in the second half, which leads to potential sacks and potential interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my like simple method of like how I figure out how to target certain defenses. So I that's why I like the Eagles, and they have talent on the defensive line. Like
Mm-hmm.
their defensive line is elite.
Yep.
um their secondary, uh there's a couple of question marks, but I think that defensive line is so good that it will kind of, hide some of
Mm-hmm.
their issues on the back end.
And then, by the way, team kicker every year, Justin Tucker is going, 3, 4 rounds ahead of
Yep.
anyone else. Last season, he was not first in fantasy points. That was the Raiders team kicker and Carlson. I don't think Raiders kicker is, going to be, I mean, no matter how good he is himself and, 92%, rate of, field goals and everything is always over 90, solid, but I don't think he's going to be a top guy. Um, yeah, I mean, do you ever, you never go early kicker, right? You never do Tucker, Baltimore Ravens.
I never do Tucker. I end up with like 0 Tucker on my teams. So it's like either the next wave or I just totally punt it.
Mhm. All right, time to get a receiver because I do feel kind of, not great with. I like Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins is okay, but those is my 4-5. I feel like it's time to jump in that market. I feel comfortable enough with the running backs I have, although it is kind of weird that someone is still on the board there. So yeah, backup tight end, I'm not interested. I don't care right now, even though most of them are gone. I'm kind of banking on Waller here. Do I take a hamstring injured DJ Shark right now? Nate Tank Dell? Or do I just grab Damian Harris right now and just because he never falls here?
Um, just looking at the board quickly, I'm going to say Michael Wilson, Jaden Reed. Um, those would
Oh,
be
Reed's
like,
still there.
yeah, those are my next
Oh,
high
shit.
upside guys.
I do not have very much Reed, and I didn't know he was still up on the board. All right, let's do it. So that's my 6th receiver. Hey, if the Watson thing, every reason doesn't say healthy, then that'll be Jordan Love's new guy there.
Yeah. Or, Dobbs.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, if he doesn't pan out, then means Reed's probably doing well.
All right, Chase Brown, is he even still in the mix? I feel like he was our guy for a while, and then he's been kind of falling
Yeah,
off, right? Because Chris Evans has been going to be the pass catching back.
I think Evans, and he's looked good. So unfortunately, I think my guy Chase is gonna have to. He's gonna have to wait and take a back seat, and it looks like Evans is gonna have the key role to start the year.
Yeah, I'm not going to even overthink this. I'm just going to take what I feel like they're like begging me to take Damian Harris, and I, know that he's fallen out to
Yeah, that's
this
super low.
way, but there's going to be a time this season where I'm going to use him, and man, I feel pretty good about the running backs there. Cool. All right. All right. Let's see. Any other last minute thoughts here? We're gonna finish things up here through the rest of this round, and then probably hopefully do another stream at some point before the season. I know your schedule is gonna be super tough, doing multiple drafts per day, but we can probably fit another OC one before the season starts.
Yeah, for sure.
Would you ever stream a prime time, by the way?
I would. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can do something like that because there will be. I haven't even done any of mine. I just with nobody cares my personal life, but with the kids and life and just everything. I can't. Kids are young still to the point where I don't want to overload myself with the usual number of teams I have. So I don't know how many I'm going to do, and I don't know if I will live stream. But one that you are on, where you can just kind of concentrate on drafting. Let's do that. You pick the time, and I think that'll be a really good show.
Yeah, we'll touch base and see what day to do that.
Final question before we wrap up. And by the way, we've already mentioned it, but the code is Chase35 to get $35 off any RotoWire Online Championship at NFFC through the course of the end of draft season. And then for FTNFantasy.com, high stakes 20 is 20% off the high stakes package. So check that out. My last question, my boy, Greg Dulcich, is getting no love. I had my silly dad joke about Sean Payton got Adam Troutman because he and having him as his top tight end on the depth chart because he hasn't done his fantasy draft and he's trying to bury Dulcich to get him later. Stupid
Yeah,
joke,
I mean,
but he's going to be fine, right? Isn't
no,
no?
I don't think he's going to be fine, but because Peyton might not value Dulcich too much. He might look at him as like a third down specialist. So I don't know. Let's say Russell Wilson, typical game, he passes like 35 times. Okay. And Dulcich is on the field or running routes, 16, 18 of those. That's kind of like the number I'm going to guess because I think they're they're going to utilize 3 wide receivers, and I think they want to utilize Troutman. They value his blocking and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I could see it where it's real, like where, for us as fantasy players, we're like, there's no way, right? There's no way he's going to start Troutman over a more talented Dulcich. But, NFL coaches don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for other. I mean, why did Mike Gesicki for so long, play less snaps than freaking Durham Smythe?
Yeah. It's just like an interesting. It was like he was like pumping him up for no reason when he first got there and talking about.
He's the Joker. He's the Joker. Yeah,
literally really got us excited.
Yeah,
I guess I just like these UCLA players. I don't know what it must be a bias, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, Nelson, thank you so much for joining, especially for a draft that you weren't in yourself. So, really appreciate your commentary. I know people love to listen to your insights. And man, yeah, good luck rest of the draft season, and let's do a prime time soon.
Awesome, man. Have a good night.
All right. Good night, everybody.